You want to say I'll praise Zion unto your how, or Hashem, sorry, or Hashem, production. Double honors to the apostles, to the elders of Great Stone. Yeah, shalom to all the brothers out there, you know, and to the few sisters out there, shalom. Yeah, this is a brother from James, Jamaica camp. Yashamai, I war, Shapal. Anyone who listening, you know, this conference that you know, Donald Trump, you know, president of America, went to NATO, right? And you know, NATO, you know, play an important part in future prophecy or Bible prophecy, right? Because the scripture speak about, you know, the beast, about yet the war, and who is the war today? The war is America, right? I know them be preparing to basically fight against Russians, them, right? You know, because you know the Ukraine situation, yeah, you know, keep on, you know, increase over the years, you know, between America, you know, and these NATO countries been fighting Russia in Ukraine, because I know them been supplying, you know, NATO, Ukraine, right? And you know, seeing, you know, even the video I watched earlier on, you know, if the brother bring it out, I think a brother do listen it, you know, they must, you know, speak about, you know, how NATO become the greatest and the most powerful country, right, in the world. And you know, and even people, military, the military, because you know, a country come together. So, and over the years, people been speaking about, you know, how the power of NATO, right? And the scripture speak about it. So they say, who, you know, who is able to make war with the beast, because the beast today is NATO, but then it was the Roman Empire, right? So them see the power of the beast, but according to prophecy, right? Russians, which are also Edomite, they're gonna basically bring the downfall, you know, of America, because they're gonna play a very important role to lead out all the armies to come against America. We should go back to prophecy, because the scripture speak about, you know, Gog, which is basically Russia today, right? That's basically the modern day of the Russians, and because them dwelling on the landmass, you know, of Gog, because you know Gog go back to Japhet, right? The one of Noah's son, right? But the Russians, which are also Edomite, them dwelling on that landmass right now. Right, but they're going to play a very important role in the near future, you know, according to prophecy. Right, go on, bro.
Revelation, right?
Yeah, straight to the point.
This is Revelation 13.
Straight to the point.
Straight to the point.
Yeah, go on.
And verse 3. And I saw one of his head, it was wounded to death, as it were wounded to death. And his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier on, NATO today is the beast, but then it was the Roman Empire. Now we live now at the revised Roman Empire, or the second leg of the Roman Empire, because this is Rome all over again. This structure, you know, this way of how, you know, these Edomites ruling this empire. You have to go back there for the design of the Roman Empire. Just like how Rome back then they have, you know, the plebeians and the patricians. Now you have the Democrats and the Republicans, right? You have the Roman treaty, right? So this the system designed after the old Roman Empire, right? Says it's Rome all over again. Go on, bro.
Verse 4. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast?
Go on.
Right? Who is able to make war with him?
Yeah, who's able to make war with him? Who's able to make war with the beast? NATO. Who's designing the nation? Because as I mentioned earlier on, it's speaking about, you know, how powerful NATO become. Right? To you know, the alliance, you know, and what them basically built over the years coming up. Right? But the scripture tell you, right, if the beasts are going to hit the war. So they're preparing to fight against Russia.
Article from the RT News published 26th of June 2025. Salakia. It says NATO spending hike won't affect Russia security. Lavrov, you know.
Yeah.
Secretary of State Lavrov said. It says the US-led bloc's members have agreed to more than double military expenditure. It says NATO recent decision to significantly boost military spending won't have a meaningful impact on Russia's security. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said, he said, this at its summit in Hague this week, the members of the US-led bloc committed to raising defense expenditure to 5% of GDP
Done.
by 2035 to address the alleged long-term threat posed by Russia to Euro-Atlantic security. US President Donald Trump, who has long urged European allies to take more responsibilities for their security, hailed the agreement as as monumental win. See? See? Moscow has repeatedly said it has no intention of attacking any NATO member states, dismissing such claims as nonsense and uh, attributing them to Western officials' attempts to justify increased military spending.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's basically, these are item for you. Right. And they've been provoking Russia because the years, over decades, Russia been warning them, about, getting closer and closer to their borders because they've been, expanding NATO, right? And for years Russia and them, basically go at it to the whole thing. Right. I know we reach this point now when, the whole Ukraine situation, keep on, getting worse and worse. Right? And Russia now going to allow them to, take over, Ukraine, you know, Crimea, the capital.
Crimea, Kiev.
Yeah, because
Kiev are the capital of Ukraine.
Russia, I think Russia have a military base.
Crimea.
Crimea. And at 2014, then they get rid of the farmer leader, I believe, the Ukraine.
Yeah.
When the World War they start, and it's America and Russia nearly go at it, and in 2014. Right, I know we in 2025 now, and the steep keep on increasing, the whole, Ukraine situation. We should know, according to prophecy, in the Middle East, where this third world war, destruction gonna really kick off, based off, what the scripture said.
Right.
Lord speak about the valley of decision. That's basically where in the Middle East.
Right.
Where all the arms gonna get gathered to basically fight this third world war battle. Right, but Russians ain't gonna play a very important role in the, near future. Right, bro? Scripture? Can
Jeremiah 49, right?
one?
It's Jeremiah 49, verse 31. It says, "Arise, get you up unto the wealthy nation, that dwell without fear. That dwell without fear, say the Lord, which have neither youth nor boys, which dwell alone."
Which is America. So America is that wealthy nation, The place of, as people are calling, land of opportunity, or the golden city. Right? So that's basically a wealthy nation. Because people say that dwell it without care. Right? We shall what? Dwell alone. Because they're going to dwell alone. All the things happening right now, all the nations them across the world, they're looking at America sideways because, the whole, Donald Trump, sending they're basically playing to drop bomb on Iran, based off of the help or the aid of the smallest them. All these countries across the world are basically looking at America sideways because what the smallest been doing over the years. Right? And all these countries been dropping, and now finally now they basically make a move, and the Iranians them, they mark feet, and then the Iranians give it to them, and then they come to the yield. So these countries across the world are looking at America sideways. So ultimately, according to prophecy, they're going to dwell alone. All these countries they're going to turn their back on America. All these allies, these European nations or NATO, going to turn their back on America according to prophecy, and even help destroy them. That's where this all going to lead to. Right, go on, bro.
Harris says, he says, when asked at a press conference on Thursday whether Russia sees the NATO buildup as a threat, Lavrov responded I don't think it will have any significant effect. We know what goals we are pursuing. We don't hide them. We state them openly, and they are absolutely legitimate in terms of any um, interpretation of the UN Charter and international law. We know by what means we will always ensure these goals. He said, so a lot of them talk. It's just that it's a lot of them talk. It's like you must show them some boy. One though, now gonna be basically have no effect on women because Russia know where them have you know. See, Russia know where them are do, and them and basically them say them are do by international laws, but Russia know what firepower them have also. So whatever NATO build up NATO try to do, see, guess what? The most I raise up the spirit of the kings of the meats.
Prepare them for.
Prepare them for this.
Yeah.
So whatever NATO come with me, see? And the most I as the Lord I mingle the perverse spirits. If you do that about in America,
right,
in Egypt, but Lord I stir up the minds of all of these other countries even against America because that's the most I got put in them heart. But the 10 hands are get the war.
Yeah.
The most I got put in them heart. So at the end of the day, it comes down to what the Most High says, man. See? Because basically there's a split between the NATO countries. See, in certain countries like Italy, France, Spain, see, and Canada and some other countries over the 5% GDP spending at the military. Because certain countries say them can't reach it because them economy not strong enough. See? Yeah, we cut federal aid to do that. So that will cause a rift between these countries, man. And you know Donald Trump is as such a very arrogant fellow. See? Yeah, and you see Macron and other leaders basically aside America from the other day. Even Macron even come out and say, boy, we need to farm our own little pack where we can defend ourselves. See? So here's a big division, man. The scripture tell us if a kingdom be divided by itself.
Yeah.
Mark 4.
Mark.
Yeah, Mark. Carry the one I'm watching.
Alright, this is Matthew 12 and 25, and he said, and Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. And if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself, how shall then his kingdom stand?
So the kingdom can't stand because Satan them be divided as brother mentioned. Right, Esau, them divided right now. You can see that. Right? You don't agree, they don't see things right why. Especially with the situation as I mentioned with the small accent. Right? You know, really with America, you know, and you know what they're basically doing. Right? Go on, bro.
This is Dominated 1 and verse 6. So, how are the things of Esau searched out? Or his hidden things sought up? All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border.
And
The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that he thy bread have laid a wound under thee.
yeah, so the men that were peace with thee, have deceived thee. They have a leader who on thee. One?
There is none understanding in him. So shall not in that day, say the Lord, destroy the wise men out of Eden. Right? And the understanding out of the mount of Esau.
Right? So you brought them to destruction. These nations gonna lead, you know, lead America to destruction. Ultimately, basically we're going right? Russia, the beer, you know, the feet is basically the hand. Now we should be go back to Russians. Right?
And those seems to be treacherously.
Then them have a deal treacherously
Treacherously with demon.
It says Isaiah 33 verse 1. Say, woe to thee that spoilest and thou wast not spoiled, and deal treacherously and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled.
Yeah, so when America sees some going around the world, and doing what they do best,
Can
you know, running and dropping bombs like they used to do, sending them the military, or them economic hitman, or remove, president and put in puppet. So when they stop doing all these things, what the scripture say about to them. So when they start cease to spoil, then they're gonna spoil.
can
I'm speaking about regime change. Right? Go on, bro.
And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee.
Yeah, so when they stop, they're gonna do the same thing to you. So they're gonna return unto you. And you're gonna worse.
Okay.
Right?
Scripture. This is Jeremiah 51 and 28. He said, prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And the land shall tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon desolate, a desolation without inhabitation. The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight, they have remained in their holes, their might had failed, they became as women, they have burned her dwelling places, her bars are broken.
That's how you can read verse
11.
And the super said the men are like woman. Right? Because now the American army is great, one of the greatest army.
Yeah.
And the level of with the chaos so this is gonna reach to. Especially as scripture speak about, even in Ezekiel. So they're gonna come as a storm. They shall, You're talking about the Russians, man, it's a nation that we are joining up with Russia, we invade America. Right? This war gonna be like no other. Right? Very, very terrible. Mighty man, I will cry bitterly. So imagine these men in the American army.
Yeah.
The scripture say they might be like a woman, they might cry like a woman. Live like how bitter this war gonna be.
Fun.
Because it's gonna be the worst of the worst, worst war ever fight on the planet.
Yeah, just to add to what I say. For years we've been see videos when soldiers are come out and a decree say, them never sign up for this. When them see small warfare, they might go one different country, like somewhere down in the Middle East, and see couple dead bodies and all of that, and soldiers were in the army. I say, them never sign up for this, because most of them never actually sign up for the war. Them just do it as a job, just do it for money.
Benefits.
Yeah, especially the scripture mentioned Babylon, which represents America today.
Fun.
And a lot of things never happened. A lot of American soldiers have never seen
Actual warfare.
And so the American army look now, it's kind of sketchy in a way wherein, them not have this. It's not like the Russian army, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's scripture tell them, they have a cry a bit of it.
If the Russians told them basically cry, because they are mighty men. Right? They'll be for what? They'll be for what even in Ukraine, making them,
Shaking.
more seasoning modern warfare through the experience that them go through, the past couple of years, in Ukraine. But because to know what happening in the near future. Right? The mighty man will cry bitterly. So it's gonna be a very terrible time. Right?
The elders them always tell us, this war not gonna be like World War I and World War II, when man are gonna reach from battlefield with guns and all of that. Before you even reach the battlefield, you're a dead man. Because them gone over to technology and nuclear missiles. So
a lot of them. They're gonna die before they reach the field.
There's one of the article. It's again from RT News. It says this is the 25th of June 2025. NATO split over 5% spending demand. Media. Spain has rejected the target as unreasonable ahead of the bloc's upcoming summit in Hague. It says Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has rejected NATO's proposal for member states to increase military spending to 5% of their GDP, calling the idea not only unreasonable but also counterproductive. Following US President Donald Trump demand for 5% target, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has called for every bloc member to raise military spending to 3.5 GDP, 3.5% GDP, and commit a further 1.5% wider security spending. Spain will continue to fulfill its duty in the years and decades ahead and will continue to actively contribute to the European security um, um, architecture. See? However, Spain cannot commit to a specific spending target. Yeah, because Spain is one of the weak economy, man. I remember I speaking about the
The
clay and
iron and the clay.
iron and the clay.
Yeah, the big
Yeah,
nations.
big nation like Spain, Spain and put and them not much as strong as it. Because so we see where even that prophecy are fulfilled where they know say this now we're not gonna mix with them because we just what. So these are separation there also, man.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so when you check the levels, there are separation all around in NATO. See? Even though them not really a show face it, a show it out like publicly, but separate. But you know, read and you can look deep inside it. See? Yeah, you can say there's a big separation. So the scripture says the beast are gonna get the word. Yeah.
What? Is Revelation 17 verse 16. And the 10 horn which thou sawest upon the beast, ye shall hear the word.
Yeah, so because the 10 horn which those up on the beast, the beast today, as you have been mentioning, is NATO, but then it was the Roman Empire, right? And the whore is America. So the 10 horn and the beast is basically these European nations.
Fun.
These shall hate the world, so they're going to hate America. What?
Right. And shall make her desolate and naked,
Gone.
and shall heat her flesh and burn her with fire.
Yeah, and burn her with fire, talking about ICBM missile fire. So them going to shoot ICBM missile in America according to prophecy. So all these countries, all America allies going to turn against them.
Fun.
And they'll be destroying them according to prophecy. Right?
Fun.
Alright, so that may say I'll praise and honor to you. How? Double honors to the apostles, to the elders and women, stone, and shalom again to all the brothers and to the few sisters out there. Shalom.
Shalom.